Let's see what's on TV. Okay, we have the bird channel, fire, fishing channel, okay, and golf. Golf. Right. In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to set up the touchpad to turn it into a D-pad for switching through channels and importing 3D objects, and we're going to go into arrays. So let's get started. So here's my scene. When setting up your scene, you want to make sure you have SteamVR and Camera Rig imported into your scene. If you need to find that, go to SteamVR, Prefabs, SteamVR, and Camera Rig. So I imported that, and I removed the main camera from my scene. Then I imported my 3D object. You'll see that I have two separate materials on it. Right here you can see on Mesh Renderer, Element 0 material, which is my gray one, and Element 1, which is my channel. I created this in Unity, and I use this to set my textures, which you can see right here. I imported these from Blender, and if you're wondering how I created two different materials, I had my material 1, and I assigned my material, my second created material in Blender. So back in Unity, let's learn how to create this Playmaker FSM. So I'm going to create it from scratch, and on TV, I'm going to add FSM. And if I go to Actions, you'll see that when you import the SteamVR Playmaker Toolkit, you'll have SteamVR and SteamVR 2.0. Before we go into the actions, let's go into the action set that SteamVR adds. So if we go into Window, SteamVR Input, if this is your first time opening up SteamVR, you're going to get another window that says, do you want to import default action set? I did this so that I can have these actions here. You'll see default, platformer, buggy, and mixed reality. And you'll see these actions here. These are your actions. And these would be your action sets. So I have interact UI, teleport, grab pinch, grab grip, pose, etc. The one we're going to be using today is snap turn right, which is a Boolean. Once you have your action set up, you want to save and generate. And once that is complete, you're going to go to Open Binding UI. So let's go into Open Binding UI and see that snap turn right. To be able to change your current binding, you need to have your controller on. So I have my right controller on. I go to Edit. Here are my controllers. And everything is already set up for us. We have the trackpad, which is what we're going to be using today. And we have Use as D-pad. You can also use it as a trackpad itself when you click on that plus sign to add and hit trackpad or D-pad. Then you can set up for click. You'll see the actions that we mentioned earlier here. Snap turn right, left, pinch, grab grip, and these are the Boolean actions. Vector 1 would be here on squeeze. But since we already have D-pad set up, we're going to delete this. We're going to use snap turn right, which is east. So back to Unity, let's create that action. As we said, we're going to use getActionBoolean, and we're going to set device to right hand, and we're going to set that Boolean action to snap turn right. Just to double check we have the right action, we go to SteamVR Input, snap turn right. Okay. Then we're going to send an event. So let's create a new event and call this turn channel. Now if we right click on state, add transition, turn channel, we have our transition located here. I can create a new state in two ways. I can hit Control and left click to create a new state, or I can right click and hit add state. But I'm going to use a third way. I'm going to select the transition, hold Control, and left click drag, and I'll create my new state like this. Okay, so when we hit on the right side of the D-pad, we should move into this next state. And in this next state, we want to change that texture. So let's add a texture action. That would be set material texture. And I'm going to go here onto channel, drag that into material, and we're going to change the main texture. If you're wondering what this is, you can always go here to this help section and see, and located here, you can see that we're going to be changing the primary texture. You can change the bump map if you type in bump map _ cube, etc. So we have our main texture, but we want to iterate between different textures. So to do this, we're going to have to create a variable for the texture. And here's another trick. If I type in texture / channel, which is my variable name, this is a way to organize between different variables. So if I texture channel or texture channel 1, channel 2, etc., that would be a way to organize between texture. And if I were to create, which is what we're going to use now, array / channels, that would allow me to organize between arrays and textures. So we are going to use arrays to switch between these different channels. To set up an array, you first create your array, and you have to select the array type. I'm going to select texture, and I have 4 different channels, so I'm going to set the size to 4. And here you'll see element 0 to 3. So I'm going to set 0 as bird channel, 1 as fire, 2 as fish, and 3 as golf channel. Now if I go back to my state, I need to find a way to get those textures to be those 4 different types. So I'm going to go to array get next. I'm going to drag that in here, and I'm going to select my array, channels. And for the result, I'm going to select texture, channel. So every time we go into the state, we're going to get the next texture. And we want to go back to finished. Finished allows us to go back to the first state, so that when we select right again, we'll go to the next channel. So let's test this out. Now look at this. If I hold down, it'll just switch between channels rapidly. The reason is because I have get state. So if I select get state down, it will only change if I ever press the D-pad on snap turn right down. So let's try it again. And now if I hold down, it won't change unless I press down again. Perfect. So that's how you set up the D-pad on the controller. If you have any questions on different actions on the SteamVR Playmaker Toolkit, or if you want to see more tutorials on setting up 3D objects or arrays, let me know in the comments below. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching.